Okay, so we are recording, and before we start, I just want to go over the ground rules for tonight's meeting. Having participated in multiple meetings of this kind, I know that this can be a sensitive topic. I want to make it clear that no decisions are going to be made tonight, and at no time will it be acceptable to be disrespectful to anyone during the meeting. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. There is no right or wrong opinion. We're here tonight to try to collect as many comments and questions for this proposal as possible. We are not here to facilitate personal debates or make any decisions on this proposal. So with all that said tonight, again, it's not a debate on the legalization of marijuana. That debate occurred at the ballot box during a state election in 2016, and we are here today because it was overwhelmingly supported in the city, including the neighborhood of Charlestown. There will be a time at the end of the applicant's presentation for questions and comments. I'd ask that all questions be directed toward the applicant and myself. If you do have questions that come up during the meeting, please make sure you record those for the end of the meeting and then ask them at the end of the presentation. The applicant will answer all questions related to their proposal to the best of their ability, and I will answer questions specific to the city's process to the best of my ability. If we are unable to answer the question tonight, we will follow up with you after the meeting to get the information to you. We are currently within an open comment period, meaning that if you do not get called on tonight, or if you think of questions that might have not been answered, all you need to do is reach out to us and we will work with you to get you that information. This comment period continues until the public hearings are held by the zoning board and the cannabis board. Again, before we begin, I'd like to take a second to familiarize everyone with the WebEx platform. During the question and comments portion, attendees will be asked to raise their hand if they would like to speak. If you are logged on online or with the WebEx platform, you can open the participation tab. It's at the bottom. It looks like a person with 3 lines through them. And click on the hand icon at the bottom left corner of the participation tab to raise your hand. Click it again once you have finished with your question or comment to lower your hand. If you're calling on the phone, all you have to do is dial *3 to raise your hand. And once you're done with your question or comment, dial *3 again to lower your hand. Once the presentation is concluded, I will again reiterate some of these ground rules and we will open the floor for questions and comments. I also want to take a quick moment to recognize any elected officials or reporters who may be in attendance at tonight's meeting. Feel free to raise your hands now if you are here, and I can unmute you so you can introduce yourself. So if there are any elected officials or reporters, feel free to raise your hand. Yep, so Ricardo, I see your hand raised. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Ricardo Patron here from Councilor Edwards' office, here to listen to what you all have to say.
Great. Thanks, Ricardo. Jane Avery, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi. Sorry. There was a huge echo there. Hi. I go to Boston University. We're just student reporters for a journalism class, Suzanne and I.
Perfect. Thanks, Jane. And Suzanne, I think you're in the same mode. I'll go ahead and unmute you.
Hey, sorry about the echo. Suzanne Crow, I'm a student reporter from Boston University.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. So thank you all for attending again, and thank you all for taking the time out to participate in tonight's meeting. I'm now going to hand it over to the applicants for their presentation. Applicants, if one of you would like to share your screen for the presentation, feel free to do so now. And let me know if you need help doing that as well.
Hi, Quinlan. I don't have ability to share my screen yet. It's Brenna.
Okay, give me 2 seconds. You should be able to do it now. Perfect. Now feel free to get started whenever you're ready to.
All right. Thanks, Quinlan. And thank you, Ricardo, for being here as well. Hi, everyone. And thank you all so much for taking the time to join us tonight. My name is Emily Regan. I work with Joyce Strategies, and we are supporting Resilient Remedies with public affairs and outreach. And I'll be walking you through our presentation tonight. The team is so thrilled to have this opportunity to share our proposal for a retail cannabis establishment at 31 Cambridge Street with you. I'm joined by several members of our team, including our founder and CEO, Jack Kelly, and our Chief Operating and Compliance Officer, Harold Mateo. Jack has been a close friend of mine for many years, and I'm very proud to be supporting him in this capacity tonight. What we hope you'll take away from our present tonight, first and foremost, is Jack's commitment to ensure that the cannabis establishment that comes to Charlestown is locally owned and operated by someone who has a deep understanding and, most importantly, accountability to the community. In addition to partnering with Harold, Jack has assembled an incredible team of experts around him. On the line tonight, we have Joyce, who is an angel investor and strategic advisor to the business. Danny Linsky, a former chief of Boston Police, who will be leading our security on behalf of Kroll Security. Ryan Connor, our architect, will walk you through our plans for the building. Kevin Joyce is our zoning attorney, and Ralph Danisco is our transportation consultant joining us from Stantec. Jack, Harold, and Dot, before we jump into the presentation, would you like to say a quick hello?
Hello, everybody. How's that sound? Okay. My name is Jack Kelly, and I am a longtime resident of Charlestown. My mother and father are actually on this call and live on Medford Street. And I have a huge family, and I think that anybody that's from Charlestown is going to know a lot about my story. So I think that we should go ahead with the presentation so you can get to know more about the team and what we're going to offer. And then at the Q&A, I'll be here for all sorts of questions that I'm sure everybody's going to have. So thank you.
Thanks. Jack, Harold, you want to say hi?
Yes. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Harold Mateo. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to work with Jack and the rest of the team in Charlestown. I'm local, grew up in central Massachusetts, live nearby in Wakefield, and very excited about the opportunity to work with Jack. I'm a father of 3 beautiful children, 2 boys and a girl, one who just turned 6. So it's quite exciting times in our household. I went to school locally. I went to Babson for my MBA and Bentley for my undergrad. And prior to that, I was a strategic consultant in corporate America with Pricewaterhouse and other institutions for about 15 years. And I specialize in strategy and real estate development. So thank you, and it's very nice to be with you.
Thanks, Harold.
Hey, Harold, thank you, Jack. My name is Dot Joyce. I do communications and public affairs work in the city with Kevin Joyce and my team with Emily and Brenna. I also worked with Jack. He was a colleague of mine at City Hall, and I couldn't be more proud to help him get this endeavor up and running. So I'm very proud to be here. Thanks.
Thank you all. All right, Brenna, we can jump into the presentation. So to start, I will just share a little bit about our business proposition and offerings. Resilient Remedies is seeking to operate a boutique-style cannabis retail establishment. We'll be focused on supporting our clients with a holistic approach to health and wellness through cannabis. And that means, in addition to offering high-quality cannabis products, we would also be looking to introduce other complementary practices like yoga and meditation, and that would likely be done through partnerships with other local small businesses. We view cannabis as a much needed therapeutic alternative to prescription medication. Some of you may be aware of Jack's background and his work in the recovery community. This is a particularly important part of our offering, and one we believe will bring positive impact to Charlestown. Next slide, Brenna. So in addition to being social equity program participants themselves, Jack and Harold are deeply committed to building and supporting a diverse team at R2. And that's with a specific focus on addressing the inequities resulting from the war on drugs. We are developing a robust diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. And that includes hiring goals with a focus first on Charlestown residents. And in addition, R2 is also committed to providing its employees with opportunities to continue to build their own careers in this industry as they move forward. Just a little about the clients we'll serve. So we will be targeting a client base of active professionals focused on healthy living. Adult use cannabis is certainly not inexpensive, with the typical customer transaction averaging a little over $100. So we expect our customer to be right around the age of 40 with disposable income. This is a look at our location at 31 Cambridge Street. I'm sure that many of you know it as the former R. Wesley's. And we truly believe this is the best location for an adult use retailer in Charlestown. First, this is an extremely small location with just 1,000 square feet of retail space. The first floor will be used as a sales area, with the basement being used for administrative and office space. The building is served by a wealth of public transportation options and with ample parking available, which Ralph will speak to in a little bit. And finally, this is a site that is in need of significant investment in rehab. As you can see on the next slide, with a look at the current interior and exterior of the location. And part of this investment will include the installation of life safety systems. On the next slide, just to give you a sense of the size, scale, look, and feel of the type of dispensary that we envision for this location. This is a look at Garden Remedies, which is operating in Newton. And as you can see, this operation certainly looks more like an Apple store than a convenience or a package store. Our customers will come in to shop. An associate may help them choose their selection, and they'll receive their purchase in tamper-proof packaging and be on their way to consume at home, which we'll talk a little bit more about later in the presentation. And as you can see by the exterior signage, this will be incredibly subtle with just the name of the business allowed on the exterior of our building. Next slide, Brenna. Thank you. So this is just a look at the current landscape. The icons on the map that you see are either cannabis dispensaries that are either in operation and open or soon to be open. It doesn't include the dozens of dispensaries that are currently in the process and awaiting final approval from the Cannabis Control Commission. And we wanted to show you all this slide just to really demonstrate that we do not expect customers to be coming to us from other cities and towns, because by the time Resilient Remedies opens, they are going to have a multitude of more convenient and accessible options available to them. And as I'm sure many of you know, there are several Massachusetts municipalities that have had marijuana facilities in their communities for years. To date, there's no evidence to demonstrate a negative impact on area property values or additional retail development. In fact, by contrast, housing prices continue to rise with market conditions. A great example of this is in Brookline, next to Netta, where development continues at a rapid pace. In Brookline Village, including a mixed-use development with 16 residential units directly across the street, an 11-story hotel and a children's hospital development within a half mile, and a daycare facility located directly next door. Other municipalities with existing retail locations like Salem and Melrose have also seen no negative change in home values, and the areas continue to thrive with several other businesses and housing options being built all around them. And again, as I mentioned earlier, with an estimated average receipt of $100 per customer transaction, we do expect to be attracting customers with disposable income that we believe will benefit the local business community as a whole. Next slide, Brenna. Kevin, do you want to quickly walk us through the zoning for the site?
Yes, sure. Very briefly, everyone, Kevin Joyce with Attorney's Law Office. As the slide shows us, we've got a first floor commercial space at 31 Cambridge Street. The city's zoning map tells us that we're in the LC, Local Convenience Subdistrict, the Charlestown neighborhood zoning. The cannabis establishment is conditional in that district, which basically, as everyone knows, conditional is allowed with conditions. Provided we meet 2 conditions, we should be allowed to operate there. We need to be with not a half a mile near another cannabis. Stay on this slide here. You know, of an existing cannabis store, and we need to be 500 feet away from a school. So we believe we meet these conditions, so the board should grant us the permission to be there. Because it is a conditional use, you can go to the next slide if you like. You can see that the ISD has requested we get zoning permission from the Board of Appeal before they will issue us our use permit to use the premises. And we've applied for that relief in BOA case number 107-04-9013. And that really is it. It's pretty straightforward.
Thanks, Kevin. All right, I will move on to operations, safety, and security. I think before we get into some of the specifics, I think it's important to highlight that this is a highly regulated industry and that Massachusetts has among the most stringent regulations in the country when it comes to cannabis. We will not only meet but exceed these standards, including through seed to sale tracking for every product and highly sophisticated safety and security measures, which I'll ask Chief Linsky to talk about in a little bit. We are fully banked by Century Bank, which allows us to provide cashless transactions for our customers. Our proposed operating hours are Monday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we will open with appointment-only scheduling for our customers until we have an understanding of the demand and full confidence in our ability to manage it. So I will turn it over now to Danny Linsky with Kroll Security. Chief?
Thanks, Emily. My name is Dan Linsky, and I'm a recovering cop. I was a cop for 28 years in the city of Boston, and I stood with probably 100 chiefs of police and the governor at the time on the State House steps and said that we shouldn't allow recreational marijuana into the communities because it was going to lead to increased crime and violence and increased utilization of this product by our youth. Instead, the same way with the other question when it came to recreation. I retired shortly after the Marathon bombing case, got to the U.S. Attorney's Office and started my own consulting company. My next door neighbor was a 40-year teacher in the Boston public school systems. She had no family except for the Linskys, the Bowens, and the Petrofita, the neighbors around her. She now has stage 4 lung cancer. And I, because I was consulting out of my house, was able to take her for her treatments at Boston City Hospital. I saw the devastation that the treatment program had on Eileen, especially with the opioids and the types of things we had to deal with cancer patients and their pain. And I realized that I might have made a mistake on the medical and the benefits of cannabis. I think it's the first mistake I've made. My wife assures me it's a weekly occurrence. But I started to do research on that because I had clients who were asking me to get in the space, and I wasn't really interested in it because I was concerned about the quality of life issues that I had mentioned. Started talking to the Brookline police chief, the Salem police chief, Newton police chiefs who had dispensaries and wanted to know how many arrests, how many break-ins, how many kids in the schools have had this product. And what I discovered is quite different than what I had anticipated. In fact, crime had gone down around the dispensaries. There hadn't been issues of concerns. It's, as Emily said, it's a well-regulated company. If you're a bar and you serve underage patrons, you probably get a Monday or Tuesday suspension sometime in August that shuts you down for a day or two. If you're one of these facilities, they actually close your facility and take your licenses after you've invested, in some cases, tens of millions of dollars. So started working with clients in this space, and I want to make it clear that Kroll does security for big pharma companies, Fortune 500 companies, banks, museums. So we know how to secure and do access control, keep our product, our staff, and our clients safe. But that's not what they asked me to do on this team. They wanted me to do that, the state-of-the-art security system, which will have perimeter alarms, motion, the ability to have 2 alarm systems in case one fails, the ability to control who goes in and out. Unlike a package store, we don't allow anyone under the age of 21 into the facility. So you can't even you can't bring a child in here. If I go to get some beer at the liquor store, I can bring my younger niece or nephew in if I want to. You can't do that here. Anyone under 21 can't enter the premises. We're going to check ID at the premise entrance. We're going to check ID at the security booth. And we're going to check ID at the purchase and sale counter. And what the clients asked me to do is to do what I did at Boston Police, is to make sure that the quality of life around the facility, which is quite frankly not our responsibility, but something this team takes seriously, to make sure that there's no public consumption of the product, that some people aren't using this inappropriately, they're not diverting it to minors, they are not using this down the park, they're not getting behind the wheel of a car while under the influence. We will not tolerate residents and neighbors and clients who come to us and violate any of those norms. When you come in, we're going to tell you what the ability to use cannabis is in Massachusetts, how you safely consume it. It's a whole education piece with handouts. People who are have immigration issues want to be aware that even though it's legal in Massachusetts, you can impact your immigration status. So we want to ensure people making decisions and well-informed, kind of like CVS. When you go out with your product, there'll be educational pieces that go out with the products that people are purchasing. A lot of folks, this might be new to them, and they use edibles for the first time and think, they haven't felt anything after an hour, and then they take 2 because they didn't feel anything, and then they can have problems. So there's a whole educational campaign we want to do, and let people know the law, how you can safely transport it, how you can hold it safe in your home from your children from getting into it, to make sure that they don't make a mistake and take something they think is something they can eat and have a bad result. If you do something that violates our community's norms agreement, you're trespassing from our property. There's plenty of locations you go to in Massachusetts, but if you don't want to be a good neighbor, we don't want you when you trespass on the property. We can track from seed to sale all of our items, and if our product and our packaging shows up in a high school or a baseball field or someplace where it shouldn't be, we want to work with local authorities, the community groups, that get that information right away, take a picture of the person who purchased it, which will be in our state-of-the-art video surveillance system, get that to the authority so they can take enforcement action. I made my bones as a police commander dealing with community groups. I remember when Charlestown Mother Association was first formed for issues and concerns over there. Mayor Menino had me over there for a community meeting. We went with the mothers, and I gave them my cell phone number and said, if there's any problems, call me. I got in the car with him to return back to City Hall, and he said, are you crazy? They're going to call you. What are you doing giving me your cell phone number? And I said, Mayor, if they have a problem and they call me, it behooves me to fix the problem and address the issue so that they stop calling. And the ones who call will take care of their issues. And the team here has got my commitment to make sure that we're on it just like that. We want to make sure that we are not impacting Charlestown in a negative way. It's a great neighborhood, great community, and it'll be the same with work for local residents here as we build out this product. I didn't talk to the age of 3. My mother thought I was going to be mute, and now she says they can't shut me up. So I'm going to shut up and listen for questions at the end. Anything to do with safety and security, I'll be happy to help out. Give you my cell phone number if you need me.
Thanks, Danny. As we all know, this is an emerging industry, and we are learning and adopting best practices as we see them unfold across the country. You certainly do your own research, but there has been positive news and reports as it relates to opioid addiction rates and crime in areas that have adopted cannabis. And many of the arguments in favor of legalizing marijuana are being proven in these early adoption states. Next, I would like to introduce Ralph Danisco with Stantec to talk through some of the work we've done to date around transportation planning.
All right, thank you, Emily. And my name is Ralph Danisco. I'm a senior principal at Stantec, and I've got over 20 plus years. I'm a transportation planner with over 20 years of experience in and around the Boston area, including 10 working for the Boston Transportation Department. The project team asked us to complete a transportation overview of the area, help them look at their operations from a transportation standpoint, and really help to minimize any impacts and integrate the project into the surrounding neighborhood. And that starts right at the beginning by the location. You know, within Sullivan Square, it's one of the most extensive and connected multimodal hubs in really the greater Boston area. The roadway network, the transit network, the bike connections, and the service that's provided, you know, are really robust. And there's really good. We've mapped all the pedestrian connections into the surrounding neighborhood, the sidewalk coverage, the crosswalks, all of those things that allow people to get in and out of the site in really multiple ways are present here in a way that they wouldn't be in many other places. And the next few slides really show that for a few of the different modes. One thing we looked at was transit service, public transportation. Obviously, the site is really adjacent to Sullivan Square with the Sullivan Square station with easy access, which hosts not only the Orange Line, but 12 MBTA bus routes, which extend, you know, out to Revere and Arlington and almost to Brookline and throughout, you know, the adjacent Somerville and Charlestown and Everett neighborhoods here. At peak, there's a bus about every minute coming in and out of Sullivan Square if during the AM and the PM peak, and off peak that only becomes every 2 minutes. So the coverage is really good. We've got some numbers here that just show how well they're used. Those folks that live in the neighborhood, this is no surprise to you. You know, over 8,000 station entries on the Orange Line. You know, 7,800 people a day board the buses right here in Sullivan Square, and then we're showing some of the other bus stops in the neighborhood as well. That coverage extends, and those bus stops are kind of proximate to here also. So, you know, we expect lots of our customers and our employees are going to be using public transportation or other modes to get here to the site. We go to the next slide. And for those who don't, the project provides no direct parking, but there is publicly available parking in the area. We've highlighted those in blue. If you include all the private spaces, there's over 1,700 spaces within a 5-minute walk. 550 of them are publicly available for a price, but folks can certainly use those. We've also looked at the curbside use in the area and mapped all of that as well. That's obviously subject to you know, a whole host of various regulations that govern how that curb space can be used. You can go to the next slide. What we also tried to do was think about the operations of the site. You know, I think the rest of the team has gone over many of the procedures and processes that'll be in place for how customers and employees can use the site. You know, initially, all customers will be appointment only until the customer base is understood better and the operations are all in place. This does a number of things. It limits the number of customers that are in the shop at any one time. Everybody has to enter through security, including the employees. Any service activity and deliveries will be scheduled not to interfere with peak retail or rush hours. And the project has been extraordinarily committed to ongoing monitoring and evaluation. I think you heard about all of the aspects that they'll be looking at on an ongoing basis. The transportation impacts will certainly be a part of that going forward. And just the last thing we did, if you look, actually that number on the bottom bullet there is based on 10 hours of operation. Initially, it'll only be 9 hours, so it'll be a little less than that in terms of customer trips, again, by appointment only, so they'll be limited initially. We just compared that number to what some of the other land uses that are, you know, able to be put in here based on zoning and what those would generate in terms of the number of trips. So for this project, it's really no more than 240. For a fast casual restaurant like a Chipotle or a coffee shop or a convenience market, you have hundreds of trips more that you would expect to see here, and they certainly wouldn't be managed, I think, as well as what's being proposed here. And if you can go to the next slide. Thank you, Emily. Transportation demand management is really critical to how the site is going to operate, both in terms of how it works for employees and for customers. Absolutely, we're doing everything we can to discourage people from driving here. That starts right at the beginning with our employees. As you heard earlier, we want to hire folks from the neighborhood who could walk here and have no need to drive. Be given free MBTA passes, on-site bicycle parking, or blue bike memberships if folks don't, would prefer to bike here. instead of take public transportation for employees. That's really high quality transportation demand management compared to many other establishments. And then for customers, I think it goes even further. One of the beauties of having all your customers come here by appointment is you have this ability to give them all kinds of transportation information about how they can get here and what their options are. And a few of the things that we're proposing to do, I think really reinforce that. One there is providing a retail credit for customers who take public transportation or blue bikes, actually get money off their receipt if they're, if they show that they've taken the MBTA or taken blue bikes here. For ride shares, if anybody takes an Uber, or Lyft, or a cab, and we're going to work with BTD and with the community to geo-map where those drop-offs can be, so they're not happening in places that are impactful. And that's an ongoing commitment that we'll make, and obviously providing continued accessible bicycle parking. I think, Emily, that is my last slide. Will certainly be available for Q&A as we go on.
Thanks, Ralph. Ryan, can you walk us through these plans? Ryan, we can't hear you. No. No.
Ryan, I don't think we can hear you. You are a panelist, though. You should be able to unmute yourself.
No, we can't hear you. We could at the beginning of the call.
Emily, do you want me to walk through this a little bit?
Yeah.
Sure.
I can, Ryan, I am no architect, that's for sure, but I have walked the site quite a bit. Again, Joyce, I hold a 5-year lease on this property for Jack to be able to operate this location. And the way we saw this location was that it was very small, and because our community is so tight-knit, and we thought this was a perfect way to introduce this industry to the community without overwhelming the community. We proposed this first. Oh, Ryan, you're back?
I just clicked it and clicked it. Now it seems to work.
Oh, right. I'm off the hook.
My apologies. So like I said, I'm the project architect. I'll give you a walk through the program, starting with the right-hand drawing. That is the ground floor, with the entry off of Cambridge Street, which is the bottom left-hand corner door. That is the main entrance. It's a fully accessible entrance, so you can wheel a wheelchair in and out. Your first stop is security, as Dan, as the chief had mentioned. That is the checkpoint where you don't get any further without the proper identification. Within the facility itself, like Emily had mentioned, it's sort of a boutique feel or an Apple Store feel, with a customer-facing counter, which are the squares with the circles in the middle of the plan, which is where the customers will interact with the staff and make their purchase, and then leave out the upper right-hand door, back out onto, it's still Cambridge Street, but it's right there at the bend. Also on the ground floor is the storage and operations office for the floor. Down in the basement, which is the left-hand drawing, is a variety of things. We've got the main vault. We have a security room down below, which is for the security equipment, staff bathrooms, business operations offices, and storage and utilities in the bottom left. Part of those utilities will be the upgrading and installation of the code compliant FAA fire alarm systems and a sprinkler system throughout. And that's the walkthrough.
Thanks, Ryan. Next slide, Anna. Thank you. What you are looking at on this slide is a high-level overview of the process that we need to go through in order to open this small business. We applied with the Boston Cannabis Board and filed for zoning relief with the City of Boston back in April. Since then, we've been doing lots of informal community outreach to solicit feedback on our plans, and something that we plan to continue to do throughout the process. Tonight, we're very happy to be here with you for our official community meeting. And we have several steps to go within both the City of Boston process and through the state's Cannabis Control Commission. And so the earliest that we would open is late spring of 2021. Next slide. Before I turn things back over to Quinlan, we wanted to finish our presentation with a little more detail about what Resilient Remedies' commitment to the community will look like. First, we will establish the R2 Community Fund to invest each year in local organizations and programming, particularly in the areas of youth development and addiction services. We will be an exemplary employer with a focus first on hiring Charlestown residents and providing our employees with incentives, training, and development opportunities for career advancement. We are certainly committed to regular meetings with our direct abutters and the community at large. And as you heard from Dan Linsky, we will certainly be taking a collaborative approach to coordinating with the Boston Police Department and other public safety officials. So that concludes our presentation. Thank you again, Quinlan, for allowing us to come and present tonight, and I'll turn it back to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for the presentation. So we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions and comments. We have the whole team here and myself to help answer those questions and comments. Before we get into that, I just want to make clear again, no decisions are being made tonight. At no time will it be acceptable to be disrespectful to anyone during this meeting. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. There's no right or wrong opinion. We're just here tonight to collect as many questions and answer them and collect comments as possible. So the applicant will answer all questions related to their proposal to the best of their ability, and I'll answer any questions specific to the city's process to the best of my ability. If we're unable to answer those questions tonight, we will follow up with you after the meeting to get that information to you. Again, we're currently in an open comment period, meaning that if you do not get called on tonight or you think of a question that has not been answered, all you need to do is reach out to us. We'll work with you to get you that information. The comment period will continue until the public hearings are held by the Zoning Board and Cannabis Board. Just one more quick second before we get into it, just to familiarize everyone again with the WebEx platform. So during the question and comments portion, you can raise your hands if you'd like to speak. If you're logged on online or with the WebEx platform, you can open the participation tab. It looks like a person with 3 lines through them at the bottom of the screen. And click on the hand icon at the bottom left corner of the screen. Once you ask your question or submit your comments, click it again to lower your hand. If you're calling in on the phone, simply dial *3 to raise your hand, and then dial *3 again to lower your hand when you're finished with your questions. I also had a question earlier. If we could ask questions in the chat, feel free to submit any questions in the chat. I am going to read them into the record just to have them on the record because sometimes the chats don't save. So if you do have a question in the chat, just feel free to send it in the chat as well, and I can get to it. So if anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to raise your hand now. I'll be looking out. I'm not going to pick them in any particular order, just as they come up. All right, we got a good amount of people already, so sorry about that. Let me just check this. All right, so the first one we're going to do is Christopher Warsham. So Christopher, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Feel free to ask your question.
Great. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. If I just want to offer some comments, is there a limit, or should I just? I want to follow the rules and give people time.
Yeah, there's not necessarily a limit, but if you could keep it like under like a minute or 2, that would be great.
Okay. So I'll send my full comments to Councilor Edwards so that she can have them. But my name's Chris Warsham. I'm a physician, a husband, a father to a baby boy, and a homeowner in Charlestown, about 3 blocks away from where the store is proposed to be. And I would like to offer comments in opposition to this store. As Ms. Regan said in this meeting, quote, we are still learning best practices, unquote, surrounding marijuana stores. And that's not acceptable to me and my family in this neighborhood to experiment further here, which has already been through a lot in the name of generating tax revenue with the Encore Casino. We already have a medical marijuana facility within several blocks of this one in East Somerville. There's another one proposed to be about 2 blocks away from this one. How many marijuana outlets do we really need in this neighborhood, which has a lot of young children, is in walking distance of public parks, schools, daycare facilities? The answer is that we need 0, but we already have 1, and that should be enough in this area. I'll conclude by saying, as a physician, I think legalization of recreational marijuana was rushed in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It was done against warnings from the Massachusetts Medical Society, of which I am a member. There is no research to support the safety of recreational marijuana use, which is a separate issue from decriminalization, which was the right thing to do. I think it's also misleading to cite statistics implying that marijuana stores somehow improve home values. I think that's disingenuous. Statistics implying that crime goes down around dispensaries are also misleading. There's no research to suggest that these stores somehow improve housing prices or reduce crime. Just because those things happen to be happening doesn't mean the marijuana store is responsible. And we're already having enough struggles here from the pandemic. And the last issue is the obvious one, which is traffic surrounding the already giant mess that is Sullivan Square Station. They have no parking here. Their store is probably going to attract people coming down 93 from New Hampshire, and we're just going to make everything more congested around Sullivan Square. So I think there are 1,000 reasons why this is a bad idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. And I'm just going to go ahead and let the team respond real quick if you want to respond, and then we'll move on to another.
I can just no research. So by research, what I did is reached out to the dispensaries that we talked about, pulled the crime stats for the 2 years prior and the time after they were built, and the numbers have gone down. I understand your concerns, your neighborhood and your children. I get it. I fully appreciate all of them. I did do research that showed that the crime went down around those facilities.
There have been, I mean, we're doing our own case studies as this industry unfolds, and you're absolutely right. It is unfolding. It's emerging. We're doing a bunch of research around it. Brookline, I appreciate children and neighborhoods. Brookline Netta is in a very densely populated area, a very main street village district. And that's where some of our case study information is coming from. So it's real to Massachusetts. It's real to our communities here. We're trying to present you the best information we have. We actually have a letter from a resident of Brookline that they submitted to their community paper about their experience living near a dispensary, and we can share that now if Emily, you want to put it up, or Brenna. We're pulling it up now. We can go back to it, but
yeah, we can always come back to it.
The basis of the information is the information we shared is actually factual. It's based in research, and it's proven through actual real people.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to another question, another raised hands. So we're going to go with Sean Boyle, and then we're going to go with Laura Caltenko after that. And then I do have a few call-in users. I'm going to get to you guys after that. So Sean, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Feel free to ask your question or submit a comment.
Thanks, Quinlan. I just wanted to have a little comment. I really appreciate you guys' goals with the wanting to attract, wanting to employ Charlestown residents, and especially people in the recovery community, and give back to people in the recovery community. I think we suffered a lot of loss in the Charlestown community due to the opiate epidemic. Even prior to the opiate epidemic, we have struggled in this community with lots of losses and addiction. And I mean, why not be open to new solutions? There have been other things such as methadone, Suboxone, you know, and so like I don't necessarily see this as a negative thing. I'm open to new things, and I just really appreciate seeing someone like a local like Jack Kelly, someone who grew up here like myself, start his own business, and I hope that um you know, like people, the city of Boston gives him this opportunity to open his own business in his own hometown. As like someone for me who's like a entrepreneur and trying to start my own floral business, it gives me a lot of hope. So thank you, Jackie.
Thanks, Sean, for your comments. Real quick, does anyone want to just respond to the comments, or should we continue?
First off, sorry. Yeah, we're having awesome. Can everybody hear me? No echo right now? Okay. So Sean, first off, thank you for that. And I'd also like to talk to, what was the first guy's name again? Was it Chris? Hey, Chris. So I completely understand your concerns, and this is exactly why I'm opening this place in Charlestown. And I know I don't want to get in and quoting some of the laws. Unfortunately or fortunately, for whatever you kind of place on this, marijuana is going to be coming to all different places in Massachusetts, and there's nothing that can necessarily be done to stop it, because as Quinlan has already mentioned, it was voted on, and there's a lot of laws and stuff that goes into it, and I don't want to make this about that. However, the basic point of it is that no matter what we do in the city of Boston, if we all just say no, there will be within a few years at least 50 plus 51 dispensaries. And so for me, as someone who lived in this community and knew that and understood, as my former role as a neighborhood liaison, I think it was 3 or 4 before you, Quinlan, I was able to understand that this means that somebody's going to try to come in here and come into our community and try to make money off of this product. Now, this is personal to me. This is very personal to me. I know a lot of people know my story and some people don't. At 22, I was homeless, okay? There's been some suggestion that I kind of, I guess, had some things handed to me, or this is something that is just a backroom deal, something that's completely erroneous. My team is one of the best teams that I've ever been around, and quite frankly, I put more trust in them than I could ever imagine with anybody. To bring them into my hometown and my community to build a cannabis shop like this is a responsibility that I understand is so massive that I am 1000% the right person to open the first cannabis shop in this community. There's no doubt about it. And I'll talk with anybody. I'll continue dialogue. Even if people are against this, I'm going to continue to be there. And I'm also 17 years in recovery. And so when people want to talk about heroin addiction, I've lived it, and I've talked about it my whole entire life. My whole entire life. I've been working on it constantly. And so when this store opens, when there are people who potentially may look like vagrants, which is a term that people have used, which I don't like, but it's been used, they're not going to just be pushed aside. Dan Linsky has talked about having a security plan so that people aren't going into other parts of the community to cause problems, but we're also going to try to get them help too, so that they don't keep coming back. The whole point is to make the community better and uplift it in all aspects of it. It's not just to push people over the other side of the area. And as a result to Encore, I agree with you. That's why you should want somebody who is also not only a longtime resident of this community, but is going to be a stakeholder. I am an advocate for everybody in Charlestown. I am not only a resident, I'm going to be there as a stakeholder. So for everybody who lives in that area, I'm your ally, whether you like me or not. I'm on your side. And trust me, there are a lot of developers right now who don't want me specifically to be down there because they know I'm going to be on your side. That's about as honest as I can be about it.
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, we're gonna thank you for the comments. We're gonna move to some more questions. Laura, your hand's been raised for a few, so Laura, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you. So feel free to ask any questions or comments that you have. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm also a resident of Charlestown. I've been here for a number of years. I have 2 children, 2 twin boys, and I share the concerns and comments of the doctor who spoke first. I see no reason for any of this business to be in our neighborhood. And I work for the assessing department in Boston, and I'm sorry, but this cannabis shop is not going to raise my value. I don't need this shop to raise the value of my property. My property is going up without you, without this business. Now I heard Emily say that you are proposing this for the this people with disposable income, well, why not put it where you live or where Jack lives? Why do you have to come here and put it in this neighborhood? I mean, if you're looking for people with disposable income, I'm sorry, but all of us over here are middle class folks. We don't have all that disposable income that you speak of. And for transportation purposes, you think that the folks with disposable income are going to be taking the T or riding a bike? I'm sorry, I don't think so. They're going to be coming in their SUVs and their Mercedes and their Lexuses, et cetera, causing more traffic jams than we already have in this neighborhood. So for all the reasons the doctor already expressed, plus the ones I'm expressing, I do not support this business at all.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Quinlan, just to let folks know what the process is, in the city of Boston, since it passed in our city, we have to, by law, have 20% of the licenses of retail liquor establishments, so package stores. That works out to be about 52 throughout the entire city of Boston. You can only, the councils passed some laws a while ago where you can only be within 1/2 mile of another facility. So if someone else is licensed, you can't be within 1/2 mile. I know someone said there was already another facility in Charlestown. I don't believe that has been licensed. I believe that's, quite frankly, we're in competition to be the facility that gets licensed. But there will be throughout each neighborhood, 1 or 2, in some cases 3 or 4 of these facilities to meet what the voters voted on. Whether you agree or disagree, I just want to make sure people know where that number comes from. For putting it in, I stood up in front of St. Anne's neighborhood group, my mother, Kay, who's a daily communicant and a Eucharistic minister, and am supporting a client in Hyde Park, just down the street from my house. Your point is well taken. I just want to let you know these are going in throughout the city based on the license requirements of the state.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to respond?
Hi, Laura, is it? First off, I just wanted to confirm, I don't know if you misspoke, but just to let you know, to reiterate, I live in Charlestown. I come from 4 generations of people from Charlestown. My grandfather, who I have the same name, lived and died in this community, and his wife, my grandmother, 92 years young, is still living in this community and is also living in the same house of right down the street where I was baptized at St. Francis. So I only say that because I completely understand your concern. This is exactly why I went and got my social equity license, is because I wanted to make sure that when this came into this community, the right person was leading it. And I believe, and I'd love to meet with you and I'd love to talk to you. That doesn't mean that you have to agree with this at all. I just want you to get to know who I am, and so that if this does pass, your concerns are still valid. Just because you might be upset about this, once we are there, I'm still your neighbor, and I'm also still going to be someone who is a responsible business owner. And it is going to be my mission to make sure that kids in this business is not a negative, because my name counts. I didn't get anywhere in life without basically the reputation of my name. So if I don't have my name, I have nothing. And another thing I want to talk about, I hate to do this, but my parents, sorry, Mom and Dad, I didn't want to do this, but they're on this call, and they also live on Medford Street, about, I don't know, maybe less than 1/2 mile away, about maybe across the street from Knights of Columbus. So I'm only saying that to tell you that my whole family is in the same exact situation that you're in, and I am too. I live in Charlestown on 257 Main Street. To my left is Monument, and to my right is a convenience store. And each one of them had to expand with alcohol. All my neighbors were against it, and I supported it. I walk what I walk all the time. And I only supported it because they all needed it, or they would have closed down. And each one of them was a local person, told me that if I ever needed anything or concerns, I could talk to them. There's been no problems. Monument is one of the best places that have ever come to Charlestown. And quite frankly, it's one of the most proudest things that I ever did supporting it, because there was about 20 people on my block that didn't.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jack. So we have a few others. There is a call-in user that I want to get to, and then I see Elaine, Donovan, and Karen Burns after that. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute the call-in user. Call-in user, if you could just state your name for the record, please.
Hi, my name's Jen. I live in Charlestown. I have a question around, I know you guys mentioned working in Menino's office. it sounds like a bunch of insiders. I'm just trying to understand from a business owner's perspective. You guys mentioned diversity inclusion on the very beginning of this call. How does a bunch of insiders bring diversity and inclusion to this particular, as business owners? And kind of, can you just give your plan on diversity and inclusion of your business, given that you guys are all insiders of the city?
I'm going to take that, actually. I'm going to take that. This is my company. I'll definitely answer. I don't know insiders. With all due respect, I don't know what that means. Quinlan, that might actually sort of what you talked about being respectful. I consider that disrespectful. I am not an insider, and no one on my team is an insider. And I would like to clarify what that means for people that don't know about what politics means. The insinuation that I'm an insider, that somehow this is being handed to us, is laughable. Because I just want to say something. We have done nothing but prove to people that we are concerned about only the community, and that's it. And we are not working with any politicians. We're not in City Hall. We are independent people who all own businesses, and we're not as connected as people think we are. So there we go.
I'll just speak a little to our backgrounds and making sure that people understand that as a female, I feel strongly that our company is representative of the people it serves. Harold was someone I worked with in another dispensary. He tried to open in Fort Point Channel. Unfortunately, it did not work out for him there, but him and Jack work together closely there. And I think there's great synergy and makes our company better to have Harold and Jack partner together. We have a robust diversity and inclusion plan. We've learned best practices across the system, not just in our previous life as public servants, by the way. The amount of work that it takes to actually serve the city is unbelievable. I give Quinlan and all the people who do these jobs enormous amount of credit because it's not easy. I do own my own business now, and I would put our diversity and inclusion plan up against everybody's. I would love to share it with you. We'll be happy to provide you a rundown of it. It's actually here. We have an Appendix A and an Appendix B, and it includes the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department in collaboration with them, as well as the Adult Education Department at the Bunker Hill Development. So those are just some of our partners that we're working with, but it will be diverse and it will represent the community and it will be focused on Charlestown.
Yeah, and I just want to hop in real quick, just from a city perspective. These applications all go through, the same process. They end up going to two separate boards in this case, the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Cannabis Board. Those are independent boards, and those are also public hearings where anyone can show up and testify. Anything that's sent to us or said in this meeting tonight is recorded and will be sent to the board as well. And then when those meetings come out too, they will be publicly advertised. But feel free to get in touch with me if you have questions about, those meetings or when they happen. And I can also connect you with those boards as well if you'd like to talk to them. So we're going to go to, I think we had Elaine Donovan and Karen Burns after that. So Elaine, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. So feel free to ask any questions or submit comments.
Hi, Quinn. I just want to thank you. I think you're doing a great job as usual. My name's Elaine Donovan. I'm a 54-year-old lifelong Charlestown resident. I'm also a former member, 18-year member of the Charlestown Substance Abuse Coalition, which is where Jack and I actually met many years ago. I just want to say that as a lifelong member of this town, resident, I've seen so much in this community. In being here my whole life, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I've seen very few people make it through the ugly. And Jack is a walking miracle. And I'm not just here to give him props for just sitting here today and being in the position he's in, but he's got compassion, he's got heart, he's got a loyalty to this community like no one else that I know. And I love the fact that he stated that he currently has 4 generations of his family living in 02129. That makes a huge difference to me, not just because I know Jack, but because honestly, like you guys have stated, we're going to have 52 cannabis dispensaries in the city of Boston. I mean, as someone who has seen a lot of addiction, not just in this community, but in my own, not a lot in my family, but in my own family, we've seen alcoholism and addiction. I know that a lot of people have a negative look toward it. I have fear myself, but I'll tell you, if it's going to be in this community, I'd rather have it be someone from our community. You know, Jackie's feet are placed so solidly in our soil. I know as a homeowner right down the street from me, as a one of 4 generations living in 02129, he's the guy that I want to open that first cannabis dispensary in this town. You know, the only word that comes to mind is trust. And I know that it's scary to trust a process like this, but if there's anybody I trust to do this and to do it first and to make the mark on this community, it's Jackie Kelly. Honestly, there's nobody else. I trust this kid. I've watched him come from a place that he shouldn't be here right now, you guys. He's a fighter. He's determined. He's loyal. He's compassionate. He's a neighbor in every sense of the word. And honestly, you know, he's the guy. He's the best guy for this to break into Charlestown. If it's going to happen, it should happen with Jackie Kelly. Thank you.
When you're muted.
Quinlan, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Was there any response from the team there, or should we move on? Thanks, Elaine. Great. So we're going to move on. I'm not sure if people are lowering their hands afterwards, but if you don't have any more comments, just if you could just go ahead and lower your hand. But if you do still have comments, just feel free to keep your hand raised. So next we have Karen Burns. So Karen, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Feel free to say any comments or questions.
Okay. Hi, guys. Thanks, Quinn. Hi, Ralph. On the other side of the table we are. So I obviously I met with you guys a few weeks ago, gave you my concerns, and like everyone, no one wants one of these in their neighborhood. But I think we all have to face the reality that it's going to happen. I just don't want 2 of them in this neighborhood, because I do know that other company is vying for the space up the street. And I will echo what Elaine said, that if there is someone that you want to have it done, Jackie is the guy. He gave out his address a minute ago. If there's any issues, you know, excuse the expression, but if shit hits the fan, we know where to find him. He's going to fix it. He's going to correct it. I just want to make sure that those people that are coming in, I know you'll be doing appointment only initially and hopefully figure out the flow of people coming in and going. But the double park, the triple park doesn't happen on that corner. It's a mess. From a professional standpoint, we will get none of the people coming in by transportation will get back home, and none of us in the neighborhood will get through there. So that's just my big concern. But I think the reality is that we have to face that it's going to go in, and I would rather see someone like Jackie take the bull by the horns and put it in. And to make a comment on the caller, there are no insiders on this panel. The only one I see is Quinlan, who is representing the city. People may have worked for the city, but they don't any longer. It doesn't mean that they have their foot in the door. And I am one of those people that always look at things and say, oh, I'm not going to bother. It's already a done deal. And this is not the case. So you have my full support in doing this. And I appreciate all the effort that you guys have put in. My confidence is also with Danny Linsky, having 30 years with the police and worked with him on a lot of different projects with us transporting his guys. I have the utmost respect. So good luck and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Karen. Any response or from the team, or should we keep going?
Sorry, Quinlan. I just wanted to say thank you to Karen and Sean and Elaine and also everyone else that spoke. And those words were very touching. I would be remiss that if I didn't say this, that I have been completely blown away by certain people in the community who have come out of nowhere to support me and show that old school Charlestown sort of love that we have. And it's not just about Irish people or old school people. It's about everybody in Charlestown. Anybody that has ever known me, Quinlan, when I had your job, which by the way, I don't think anybody would want, to be honest. So let's get rid of the insider job. And if you look, I don't think I topped out at like anything more than $42,000 a year. So I'm not an insider. Anyhow, you know, I can tell you that everything that I've ever done in my life is to make sure that Charlestown is as open as possible to everybody. And I've proven it. Because if you just look back a couple of years ago, I stood there and have put my name on the line and always backed the right people. It didn't matter who they were, if they were from this community or not. I always backed the right people. So.
Thanks, Jack. We do have one more, another hand raised here from someone who hasn't spoken. Brian, I'm going to go ahead and let you ask a question or submit a comment, and then after that we do have some questions that were submitted via the chat that we can get to. So Brian, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Feel free to ask a question or submit a comment.
Take your time.
Hi, Quinn.
Yep.
Hi, Quinn. This is Anne Marie Callahan.
Hi, Anne Marie. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? I actually hijacked Brian's computer, so but I wanted to just chime in because I think that, you know, we can have a philosophical debate about pot shops for a long time, but I guess in fact it is the law that they're going to go in. And what we really want to do is make sure that what goes in is, you know, a product or a company that is well run and is cognizant of the neighbors and the community around it. And so I say that because we live, as you know, 2 streets over. And, you know, we've had a lot of discussion about pot shops in our neighborhood. You know, as you know, there are 2 that are lined up looking for a spot in the neighborhood. And what we're really concerned about, as you know, Quinn, is the amount of traffic and the safety concerns in our neighborhood. We've had long discussions with BTD, with everybody about the cut-throughs, the amount of people who cut through now to go to the Green Line, to avoid Sullivan Square, to now potentially be driving to a new facility in Sullivan Square. And so I would really like to see more conversation with the people who live in the neighborhood, i.e. the people who live on Parker Street, Brighton Street, Perkins Street, Hadley, whatever, with this group. And I would really like to have some commitment from the traffic people, from the security people, from this group, that our concerns will be addressed before this thing opens. You know, one way or another. And I think that, you know, that will go a long way in the neighborhood to have, as you've said before, that you've had people in the neighborhood who are actually okay with having this in their neighborhood, but they're not going to be okay if their streets aren't safe and the traffic's crazy and all that. And I'll follow that up by saying that if Dan Linsky wants to give me his cell phone, I'd be happy to call him about this. Because it's very, very, very important to us.
Absolutely. 857-275-2510. 857-275-2510. Daniel.Linsky@kroll.com. And I just want to say there have been, the team had already done some initial outreach with folks around the neighborhood and had some calls with folks. The opening hours are at 11 because that's after the rush hour. And we're hoping that that's going to alleviate the problem in the morning. We need to have a plan and have this taken care of before we open. And we also need to be able to respond to it once we're open because things change, streets get shut off, water mains get broken, and we need to be adaptable to whatever the new challenge is going forward. So it's not, we want to have a good plan before we even start, but we also want to be talking to people to make sure our plan's working and adjusting it as things change. It might be the city says you can go off appointment, we're comfortable with it, but we see that on Friday nights or Thursday nights, we're getting crunched, and we might decide, no, we're going to put appointments on for those nights, even though we're allowed not to do it, because that's the best impact for the community in the neighborhood. Along with the community norms, if there's double parking, anyone who's doing something and trying to run into our facility, that's going to violate our community norms, and they're not going to be allowed past the front door if our security team on the sidewalk sees them doing something wrong. So happy to have that discussion. Please let me know, and please spread my number to any other neighbors who have concerns, so we can talk about it beforehand and fix it. You know, if we're lucky to be licensed.
Also, Quinlan, just to follow up on Chief Linsky's, I don't really know how to say this, but I'm going to be there every day. I live on Main Street. I'm going to be walking to that store every day. I have already been in there. I have a table that I've put in there. I work a few hours already in there. And also too, I want to get this out. This is my full-time job. This is what I'm already doing for a living. And that was something that was important to me, because the commitment from my team needed to be real to me so that I could sell it to be real to you, because everything has to be that way. And so, can I tell you everything that we're going to do, just like Chief Linsky happened with, as we're seeing with the pandemic and COVID, you know, things are going to have to change. And this team is perfectly well suited to change with the times in a pinch. That's because of our previous experience, that, as people have said, is insiders. I would call it professional experience. We can all take that, and we've all worked with each other. We can make sure that if something does happen, which might happen, we're going to be able to fix it right away. And I'm not going anywhere. I'll meet with everybody all day long. I don't care. I mean, I'll go up there tomorrow night. I'm right down the street. I'll meet with anybody.
Thank you, Jack. So we're gonna get to some of the questions that were sent in the question and answer in the chat. If you have asked a question and raised your hand and you don't have any more questions, if you could just please lower your hand, that's great. If you still have a question or comment, and that you want to come back to, we can absolutely come back to you. We just ask that you keep your hand up. So the first question, the question and answer, is this is from Nike. For each founder who own a business now, what percentage of their current ownership and staff is minority, female, veteran, or LGBTQ? Feel free. I don't know if anyone.
She asking about our private businesses?
Yeah, I mean, it isn't about this current proposal, but if you'd like to answer, you can have.
I'm all female owned, female operated. And my Joy Strategies company is Kevin and I. And we contract with lots of different people.
Great.
I don't know how to answer.
No.
Okay. I was going to.
Sorry, Jack, I don't think we can hear you.
Okay. I was going to say, Quinlan, I don't know, but the previous job I had before this was the book I wrote, and that was all I had. So.
Thank you, guys.
I don't know. Is that diverse?
Yep, no problem. Thank you. So the other question we had in the chat was, will the outside of the building be improved? Does anyone want to take that question?
Brian, we will improve the building. Yes, absolutely. Our clients and customers are going to be pretty discerning clients, and we will need to improve our building facade. Absolutely.
Top to bottom.
Great, thank you. I don't see any more questions or comments in the chat, so we're going to go back to raised hands. So there is one raised hands that we haven't got to yet, and then another call-in user. So I'm going to get to Max Bevington, and then call-in user. If you could just keep your hand raised so we can get to you after that, that'd be great. So Max, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Feel free to ask a question or comment.
Hi, Max. So I'm a reporter working at BU. Sorry, I didn't identify myself at the beginning of the call. Just couldn't figure out how to raise my hand on this. Kind of figure it out on the way. But so this is just kind of a security question, I guess, then more geared towards Daniel. You talked about like your good neighbor agreement. Talked about like if they use marijuana irresponsibly or in a way that like, you know, is against the law, they violate your agreement, and then they're turned away at the store. And just like what I'm trying to like wrap my head around is, how do you like view like the trying to enforce some of these rules, like after they make a purchase, after they leave the store, where you don't like necessarily like have jurisdiction if they act irresponsibly, like if they go home and do something responsible, like after they made their purchase and leave the store grounds.
Yeah, so, if they're out of our sight, out of our view, it's harder for us to do it. However, if a neighbor takes a cell phone picture of an individual who's down the ballpark, publicly consuming cannabis, and they send it to my security team, and that we go through our video and happen to find out that it's one of our customers, we'll identify him and put him on our no trespass list. If the police department writes a police report and says that so-and-so diverted product to a youth, we're hoping we'll get a copy of that police report. And, if it doesn't come directly from the police, it might come through community meetings where they often go through the police reports in the community groups. If we become aware of it, we will take action against it. So we can't be watching customers all the time, but I can tell you if I see a car accident and they give me a name of an individual who was arrested in the Boston Herald for operating under the influence of cannabis, and I Google him or her, and I find out they were a client of ours, we will reach out to police, let them know if they need any information, and we will put them on our no trespass list.
Also, Danny, one other thing which has been key to it is the seed to sale tracking system, where you can track down each product, and if there are remnants or you can find the details of the package, you can trace it right back to a client or customer and ban them.
Great, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to get to the call-in user. Call-in user, I'm going to unmute you. If you could just state your first and last name before your question or comment, that'd be great. Sorry, you should be unmuted now. Call-in user, are you there?
Hi, Quinlan.
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, Quinlan. This is Betty Kelly. I'm here with my husband, John, and my other son, Michael. We're Jack's parents and Michael's brother. We're all lifelong community Charlestown residents. We have no intentions of leaving the town, and we just want to say that we're in support of this business. I wasn't in support of Encore, but Encore's here to stay. People voted in. And just like this, it's voted in. It's going to happen somewhere, sometime. So we just wanted to let people on this call know that as a family and Charlestown residents, we're in support of this.
Yeah, and I support it too.
Great, thank you so much, guys, for calling on. Does anyone want to respond to that before we move on?
I guess I would have to, right? That would be pretty bad if I blew my parents off. So thank you, Mom and Dad. I appreciate that. And one last thing that I just wanted to make sure that I said, that to clarify it, that I know that the Sullivan Square group and anything that we call the Lost Village is always going to be an issue. So with traffic, I am going to be their ally to make sure that we mitigate traffic. Use me as your ally. Use me. So to make sure that there isn't traffic through their streets, and I'm going to be on top of that. And for the record, I also lived at Parker Street for 2 years. So I was well equipped to understanding some of the issues over there. So.
Thanks, Jack. So next we have Timothy O'Keefe. So Timothy, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I guess, so I'm a new resident on Parker Street, and I was wondering, you said that they were going to have 240 daily visits. Where did you get that number from? And number two, what would you project would be the number if you weren't appointment only? Like, what would we have to expect would be the throughput down there? Thanks.
Well, I'll take it. I can take it. Thanks. So,
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Ralph, I don't know if you're on standby here for our traffic and transportation. The number is based on the amount of time we expect it would take a customer, the amount of terminals we have, and our ability to have lines. So we will not allow people to stand in line outside. So that's where we got to the 240. There's 4 terminals, and we expect it takes about 10 minutes per client. And so if you do the math out, that's pretty much where we got to.
That's correct, and that was, we based it on 10 hours initially, but I think if the hours are going to be reduced to 11 to 8, that's 9 hours, so you would go down by, you know, a tenth.
Yeah, and then the other question was if I don't know if you guys have the answer to this, but if you weren't appointment only, what the numbers would look like.
They won't be much different, and Ralph, you can back me up on this, because we won't allow lines outside and our capacity would not allow for much more. So again, we will not allow for many more than that. It will be most likely some type of appointment if we're seeing any type of more than that per hour.
Yeah, the controls would govern here, I think is really the, you know, what we understand in terms of the operations.
The market is also starting to govern. I have clients in Boston who, you know, when they first opened up were busy all the time and now would like to be busy all the time, but are starting to see, you know, times that are busier and times when they don't have customers coming through the door. The other cog in the oil for operators in this space is Massachusetts is voting on distributors licenses, where the distributors can be like a small Amazon, not just distributing from dispensaries like ours, but having a storage facility where they can go out after purchasing from a cultivation store and deliver right to your home. I know myself, I haven't been to Stop and Shop in a while because my wife goes on Amazon and orders things. And I think, you know, unfortunately for Jack and the team, that will be impacting the way in which people purchase this product throughout the community once those delivery services are operational and running.
Thank you. So it doesn't look like we have any new hands raised. We have a few hands that have been raised. So I'm going to go ahead and call some people just to make sure that we get back to them and see if they have any further questions. So Laura Caltenko, I know you've had your hand raised. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you have any further questions or comments, feel free to go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I tried to put the hand down, but for some reason my computer just wasn't letting me. But I guess since I have you, just a question. If it's going to happen, right, and we're looking for people that have disposable income, why not set up shop in Charlestown proper, where the majority of the people with not just a little disposable income, but a lot of disposable income live?
Sure, yeah. I can let the applicants answer that if you'd like.
I'll just say that I work with clients in this space who are trying to do this, and you have to find the right space that meets a bunch of criteria. One, the building has to be owned outright and not have a mortgage on it, so that people can lease it to you and not have to worry about the federal government or a bank foreclosing. So you need to have that particular. It's got to be in an area where there isn't somebody already licensed in a half mile. It's got to be owned outright. It's got to be accessible to handicapped people. You know, we're talking about recreational, but a lot of recreational clients are in fact medical clients, and a lot of them are, you know, have issues and concerns with mobility. So they got to be able to get in and out of a facility. You also want to make sure that you want to, you know, traffic is an issue. Every one of these conference calls I've been on is about traffic and parking. So you want to try and find a place that has some off-street parking and on-street parking and try and minimize that impact going forward. And then you need to have a landlord who's willing to do business with you. It also has to be in the approved cannabis overlay district that the cities have supplied. And sometimes they're not as numerous as some would think. They're kind of finding a needle in a haystack in some instances in some sections of the city. So that's the reasons why operators pick their locations and why I think this location get picked.
Great, thank you. Did anyone else want to respond? Okay, so we do have two other hands raised, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute one of the callers. There's two callers. I'm going to go ahead and unmute one of the callers. Caller, go ahead, just state your name and your question or comment.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
So this is Michael. I'm a Charlestown resident myself, and I just want to say, as in the real-time effects and how we would look to have a store down in Sullivan Square, I think you don't have to look any further than to the operation in Brookline, which I'm fortunate enough to see because I work all over the city. And surprisingly, when I went over there, I anticipated kind of a wild, chaotic operation. in working over there, it was amazing to me how seamlessly that store settled into that community. They updated the building. The building's beautiful over there. And in a way, it seems like, and it's a very similar setup. It's in the kind of in the middle of a hub area towards Brookline Village. And I just feel like it was amazing how seamlessly it settled in, and it actually, in a way, revitalized the area and gave it a little more vibrancy without any of the chaos that I anticipated. And I actually expect the same for the Charlestown location. So I support it, and I thank all the hard work going towards it. Thank you.
I helped Ed Davis do the initial security design for that location, so I thank you for that. I can tell you we had Brookline Police there when we initially opened, and they decided to remove the detail. The detail got put back on when, after they were open and running as a dispensary, someone decided to put in basically a preschool next door, and that led to some challenges with drop-offs and pickups. And the Netta picked up detail offices there, and obviously with recreational became a little busier with traffic and parking as well, and picked it up. But thank you very much. It was the exact same thing. I thought that it was going to be overwhelming and people smoking pot on the street and hundreds of people in line, and it didn't turn out to be.
Thank you. We do have another call-in user with their hand raised. So call-in user, I'm going to unmute you. Just feel free to state your first and last name and then ask any questions or comments you have. Hi, if you're calling in, are you there? Hi, if you're calling in, are you there? It looks like they just hung up. So I don't have any other hands raised. I don't see any other questions or comments in the chat. I'll go ahead. I'm not going to wrap up just yet, but I just want everyone to make sure that they have my information before we do wrap up. Sorry, can somebody mute their microphone real quick? Thanks. I just want to make sure everybody has my information before they leave tonight. So again, the question and comment period is not over. So feel free to get in touch with me. I can always connect you with the proponents as well if you do have any questions or comments about the project. My phone number, my office line is 617. Sorry, can somebody just mute themselves? Thanks. Anyone? All right, so my phone number is 617-635-3549. Again, it's 617-635-3549. Email is quinlan.locke@boston.gov. That's QUINLAN .locke, LOCKE, @boston.gov. We also will have the materials from tonight readily available if you'd like to request them. The presentation that was presented, as well as a video recording of this. So feel free to get in touch with our office for that. And with that, I don't have any more raised hands or questions or comments in the chat. If the applicants just want to give some final comments, feel free to do so.
I just want to say thank you, Quinlan. Thank you to the City of Boston. Thank you to everybody that participated. And I look forward to continuing discussions. And I'm very, very proud to be a person of this community. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Feel free to get in touch with us if you have any further questions or comments, and we can always reach back out to you. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.